We're up to Amud Mem Gimel, and the second paragraph that begins with Yesh Lema. So we brought two Yesh Lemas. We brought here in hagaha Yud. We're up to Yud Beis, right? Yeah, hagaha Yud Beis. We're in the middle of, and we're explaining what is the Pshat Atzilus? That the Taich Atzilus can be learned from the story of Moshe, that Moshe had to gather the Zkenim and place his Ruach upon them, or the Eibusher was going to place the Ruach of Moshe on them. So the Rebbe Rashab is Medayik, how here we're talking about two stages. There's the stage of V'atzalti min HaRuach, which is V'ayudu Mamshech B'chinas Moshe L'Madrega B'chusa. So it's Atzilus Miloshin Yud V'Hashpala. And then there's V'samti Alehem, which is from there they get a Yunika, they get a Ha'ara from that Madrega Hanamucha. The Madrega Hanamucha is Madregas Moshe. They're not shaykh to be Makabel from Madregas Moshe, but if in Pnimi, they're Makabel Ha'ara. So we explained that the way that is Lamaila, we explained in two ways so far, two Yesh Lemas. So the first one was to consider how the Ein Sof Shlifnei Atzimtzum, Malchus the Ein Sof, is Yerid v'Nimshach to become Kesed Atzilus. So Madregas Malchus the Ein Sof becomes Kesed Atzilus, and from Kesed that is the V'atzalti min HaRuach, and the V'samti Alehem is then a ha'ara from that madriga is nimshach, is nimshach. That should become the Eidus of Atzilus. We then explained, whilst explaining that, we described how in the Eish Lifnei Atzimtzum there's the Etzemay and the Bashasay. Now I explained that to mean the two madregas that we traditionally refer to as Ispashas Eir, Gilu Eir La'atzmei and Gilu Eir HaShayach Lazulas. And we explained that the actual Yerida V'Hashpala of the Eir and Seish Lifnei Atzimtzum, which is Yerid V'Nimshach, to become Kesed Atzilus, is not only the Eir HaShayach La'ilameis, the second madrega in Ispashas Eir, but also the Eir Shayach La'atzmei, which here he refers to as Etzemai. That is also Yerid v'Nimshach, to become the Tachtoina Shebamatzil, Pinimis HaKesef. The Oid Yesh Leimar goes further. That not only the two madrigas in Ispashas Eir, but also the Etzema Eir HaShayach LaEtzem. Not just the Etzema Eir, which is still B'Bechinas Gilui, that both the Etzema Eir HaShayach LaEtzem, the Ispashas Eir HaShayach LaIlameis. This is the Shver Shtickle. I have no confidence in the way I'm explaining this, because I'm not entirely sure the Havchana that he's trying to make between the three Yesh Lemas. But this is the best I can do. It's talking about Sai, the Etzemay, inside this Bashas, all is Yerid v'Nimshach to become Kesed, to become the Tachtein Shebamaitzel. So the Madregas Moshe Atzmai is Yerid v'Nimshach to a Madrega B'chusa, Estos Kesed Atzilus. And from there, there's a Yunika there, from there is a Ha'ara, which is Yerid v'Nimshach like Kelim Atzilus. Yeah? Now we're going to have the third Yesh Lema, which is going to go even tifer about what is the inyan, which is Yerid v'Nimshach. Because what we're explaining over here, we're trying to explain Atzilus. So what is the Shaykhis of Atzilus to the Ein Sof Lifnei Atzilus? To the Ein Sof Lifnei Atzimtzum. So according to the first Yesh Lema, the Shaykhis is to what? The Ispashas Eir. According to the second Yesh Lema, the Shaykhis is to the Etzema Eir. And to the third Yesh Lema, it's going to be the Shaykhis is going to be to the Ma'ir. That what is the ha'ara which is nimshach from what is tachtein shebamatzil? Atik miloshen ha'atoka. what is it a copy of? It's talking not the original. It is a copy of the original. The original what? The original Hespashasay, the original Etzamay, or even the original Inyan of the Mo'ay. That is Yerid v'Nimshach. So if we touch up Atzilus, as Meloshin Yerida v'Hashpola of the Madregas Meisha to a Madrega Pechusa, over here we're trying to understand what is the Inyan of Atzilus, the Yerida v'Hashpola of the Eirin Seish Lifnei Atzimtzum, which is Yerid v'Nimshach to Kesa Atzilus. Okay, is that clear? Good. So do you mind closing that? The banging is annoying me. But so weiter können wir sagen. Apimash kos mokem acher be inyan ha'oir shu bebechinas chai v'kayam no'ad bebechinas kiyam atzmi ve'ein be'klilyin ve'hefzit klal. Okay. So in the Makedus that you find in Hara 439, you see this musuk that when it comes to oir, it explains in those places that it's a bechinas chai v'kayam no'ad. What's the pshat? That the oir itself has a kiyam atzmi. So something which is an atzmi, inyan and atzmi, as we know, is an inyan bifnei atzmi, it's inyan fazich. So Mele has no reference to other things, no shaykhs to other things. So teicha oir, as part of the oir, there's this musuk that it also has this inyan. Because oir, as we're gonna now highlight, oir l'cheira is the opposite of an atzmi. You have an atzmi and you have a gilui. The word said atzmi is bishvil atzmi, is tzulib zich. Gilui is bishvil azulas. Right? Oir is dachi inyan from gilui. Called inyan ha'oir is bishvil agilui. Called geda ha'oir bishvil azulas. So the cheira oir, and oir is all, to be an oir you have to have a mo'ir. Hastus, you're not an atzmi. You're not a thing for itself. You're a thing that's totally on something else. So all the tchunas of oir are the opposite of atzmi. But we have in other places which describes how oir is an inyan of atzmi. Has all of these qualities of an atzmi. Fazich, not dependent on anything else. Doesn't care about anything else. It's not motive. Has no impulse to be Abashayach or anything else. There's all these things are the opposite of Eir. But in these places, these are the Makedas. Cheda emphasizes how the Eir is also Natsmi. Cheda ain't moving. So for the reason I'm going to say, I just said, it doesn't seem to make sense. You can only be an Atzmi if your Metzias comes from yourself. If you are an olul, if you are a mesubov, if you are a yesh which comes from an ayin, you can't be an atzmi. Because tezeu bechinas kiyum amiti. When can you say you're an atzmi? You have a kiyum atzmi. Your existence is assured, is necessary, is guaranteed. Is only when you're not dependent on anything else. Otherwise, your existence is accidental. It depends on something else. Only the Eibishter can be called emes. He's the only Metzias Amiti. Nothing else has the Amitis Hametzias like the Eibishter. By the beginning, Amitis Himotze. The emes u'dov she'ein nifsak la'olam chuli. V'al zeh nema hu alikim chayim. Shu bechinas chay v'kayim bechinas kiyam atzmi. The Eibish is doch a kiyam atzmi. Wie kann man sagen, dass der Eir is also has a kiyam atzmi. V'chol bechinas Eir hari ein atzmi. Hainu she'ein metziyusim yatzmus kiyam yamoy. If everything about you is dependent on something else, you have no guarantee for what you are an effect of. It's possible, right? I'll be going. V'im kein. Eine beginnes kiyam atzmi gam kein. The en kiyumay mitzad atzmi ki im mitzad hamoy ve'ich nikre chay v'kaim be'etzim. So straight away we ask the question: how can it say in all these other Makedos that the Eid has a Kiyam Atzmi, when the Cheira, called Inyana Eid, is that it's totally in the Mo'in. It's not Metzius in Yatzmus. Yeah? So now he's going to explain. So the explanation is as follows. And like it says in all those Makejos too. The Eid, I think we learned, didn't one of us, so you learned the Hikrisam? Tashmid base? Good, okay. Well, 9 base. You got all the Makejos there. The Eid hu me'ein ha'ma'ir. Right? Klal Gadol. Eid, because it's Davik in Ma'ir, it's me'ein ha'ma'ir. It has all of the qualities of Ma'ir. Just like we've explained in the earlier Hagois, right? We have our Moshel of Erev Ziv HaShemesh, we have the Moshel of Erev Chayis HaNefesh. That's what we mean when we say Eir. We borrow from those two Mishalim, and that's how we understand the Eir in Seif. It's Me'ein HaMa'ir. ומאחר me'ein ha'ma'ir, im kein, כמי שהמa'ir שמציוסים מעצמוסי, הוא בבחינת קיים עצמי, כמי כן העיר, הוא גם שמציוסי הוא מהמa'ir, מכל מוקים הוא בבחינת קיים עצמי מאחר me'ein ha'ma'ir. So, since the Eir is Dovuk in the Ma'ir, and is Me'ein ha'ma'ir, so just like the Ma'ir has the quality of Metzius Miyatzmusei, the Eid also has the quality of Metzius Miyatzmusei. Yeah. Well, that's the pshat. Kiyum Atzmi is because Metzius Miyatzmusei. You can only have a Kiyum Atzmi because Metzius Miyatzmusei. So why should the Eid have a Kiyum Atzmi? Why should the Eid have a Kiyum Atzmi? Because it's Me'ein ha'ma'ir, and the Ma'ir has a Kiyum Atzmi. Why did the Ma'ir have a Kiyum Atzmi? Because Metzius Miyatzmusei. So the quality of Metzius Miyatzmusei is sort of transferred, is conveyed through the Eid, because the Eid is Me'ein ha'ma'ir. Now you can say its very status as Eid precludes it from having that quality. It's sort of a stirum in Eubei.
It is the Eid Shel ha'ma'ir, right? It is the Eid Shel ha'ma'ir, therefore it's not a different thing Lagamre.
Yeah. I'm saying this is what I haven't got the Asius at the moment for this, but if the Eir is going to be a reflection of the Ma'ir, it reflects everything. Now you could say technically it doesn't have a Kiyum Atzmi, because the Vart we're saying here is it doesn't have a. You're right, it doesn't have a Kiyum Atzmi in the truest, absolutist sense, because if the Ma'ir wanted to, it could cut it off. Could stop it. Could stop being Meir. The Ma'ir is not Mukhrach in Gilui. Unlike the Ziv HaShemesh, like in the Erev Chayis HaNefesh, right? It's not Mukhrach b'Gilui. It's a Gilui Ritzonis. So if it's a Gilui Ritzonis, that says that the Eir does not have a Kiyum Atzmi in the purest sense. But the Musuk of having a Kiyum, Kol Zman, you could say, okay, it doesn't have a Kiyum Atzmi. It's like saying like a Beinani. When we say Al Derech Moshe, we say a Beinani never did an Aveir his whole life. It's a famous question. What's the pshat? How can you say a Beinani? Of Aveir Miyomav. Holding of a Beinani is shy. All the Aveir of a person is to become a Beinani. If you've already done Aveir, that means you can never become a Beinani. Because a Beinani is someone who's never done an Aveir. So you're already excluded from the possibility of becoming Beinani. No. When you reach the Madrega Beinani, it's Ki'ilu as if it's Le'av Aveir Miyomav. On that Madrega of Metziut, like his Olam of Madrega saying, to become a Madrega of someone that's Mufrach, Kol Inyan Aveir is Mufrach. Right? Doesn't mean that there wasn't a history where there was possibly an Aveir. It's the same thing with the Eir. You're right, there could be a moment where this Eir would no longer be an Eir. And then you can say it doesn't have a Kiyum Atzmi. But Kol Zman Kiyumai, it's Kaim B'Kiyum Atzmi. Because how else is it Kaim? If it's Dovuk in Ma'in, it's Me'ein ha'ma'ir, what? He doesn't have anything else to reflect. The Eir doesn't know how to reflect something that isn't a Kiyum Atzmi. it would be a sort of a weakness in its dveikus in ma'ir if it wasn't reflecting this quality. Now you're right. If you want to step outside of the context, and you say that fundamentally like it says in the Rambam, ultimately only the Eibishter can be Metzius Miyatzmusai. But the Eishel Ein Seif, the Eibishter's Gilui, this Eir, is reflecting what the Eibishter is. And the Eibishter is Metzius Miyatzmusai. The Ma'ir is Metzius Miyatzmusai. The Eir also has that. It's Me'inamai. So he says it. It says interesting. He said the way he words it. So even though it's Metzius is from the Moy, okay. So we see that the Eir is what has the koyach mimahavi yishmaim. Now we always know from the. Is it going to quote now from the Simon Chaf? The who can create Ishmi'ayin only the Eibishter. Shemetziyus miyat musay. Abba b'poel who creates. What is the ayin which is mahavi the yesh? The Eir. V'yazvei. He's going to explain. This is why this explains how the koyach the sheish b'koyach ha'Eir lahavi Ishmi'ayin. So mitzad koyach ha'mo'ir shabai fishu mein ha'mo'ir. Because the Eir is mein ha'mo'ir. Therefore, it has the koyach esavus. K'mishkos because hakizim re'maschu v'chiyu ichad v'zel she'inai shebohen melubash hakav me'eir ein seif sha'eir hu ke'ein ha'mo'ir hu mehusa v'yatzmusei shel ha'matzil baruch hu she'metziyusi hu miyatzmusei v'lachin hu levadei b'koyach v'yichel to live yesh ma'im v'efes ha'muchlet ma'amish chuli ad kan l'sheinai. The famous lashon from Simon Chaf. The Eibishter hu levadei has the koyach v'mahav yesh ma'im. Ubepoil v'azoi al yidei, because the Eir is mein amoy. Not the Eir mitzad atzmoi is a mahave. Eir mitzad its dveikus in mo'ir has the koyach mo'ir, which is the koyach mo'ir is to be mahave. Because the Eibishter built us as not because it's behechrich. It's a gilur etzinis. Had the inyan is havid yesh mi'ayin u davke bekoyach ein seif atzmus muhushim etzius miyatzmusei. Nimtza hakoyach hazeh b'ha'oir shu ha'mahav v'mayin yesh. So this koyach, which is exclusive to the Eibishter, is to be found in the Eir. Ukmishkosov sham the iyu v'gamu yichad livri behem v'al yodam v'mayin yesh. Because the whole meaning of the Simon Chaf is to explain how the Kelim are also Atzilus and also Elikus. Yeah? Umavaysham b'chol ha'inyan eich she'es avos hu me ha'oir hagam she'ha'oir mitziyusi hu me ha'moir. So notwithstanding the fact that the Eir's mitziyus is from the moir, it still has the koyach es avos. Hu mei berotzin ha'moir kashe'olah b'ritzin yisbarach la'oir. How do you mei? And this is all the gilur etzinis. When the Eibishter wants it to be this way, then the Eir has the capacity to be made this inyan. Actually, he at the same time has the rotten to be able to stop it happening, just like we explained above. Calls the man that the moir is expressing this Eir. Remember in the hagaha, early hagaha tests, when we were talking about B'ri Yesh Ma'ayin, what were we saying? The Ayin and the Yesh is a hofchim. The Ein Arich. So if the Tak is so Ein Arich, the Azay is a Inyan Esavas, a Yesh Me'ayin. So we said, B'rotzen Abein, the Eibishter wants. There should be. It's not the Eir. It's not the Ayin. Ayin Miloshen Bittul. It's Miloshen Dveikus. The ayin has a dveikus in the mo'ir, and so what does the Eir want to be megala? Meaning, what's teva Eir? Teva Eir is megala the mo'ir. What is the mo'ir? Hu levadei, hu vein zulasa. So And what's the inyan by yesh? It's the opposite of that. So teva ayin, teva oir is to be menuga to that. It's bein arich. What's mitamol? Sorry. The ma'ir is the oir is magish that the mitziyusim yatzmus. Who's the real mitziyusim yatzmus? Who's the only mitziyusim yatzmus? The Eibishter. That's why it has someone. That's why the oir has its bittul. All of it say no. Have it yishmaim. The Eibishter wanted to be yishmaim. So, since the oir is me'ein amoir, and the rotzen amoir is what? To be lahavis yishmaim. So the ayin is ma'al yesh. Still be'ein arich. It's still it's only mitzad rotzen amoir. It's not mitzad tchunas ha'oir. Tchunas ha'oir is to be dovik, the amoir is me'ein amoir. It's bottle amoir. To have a dovik hipuche is a stira to the oir. To have moir and have a yesh seems to mitzad the oir is a stira. Became because the rotzana moir, as we said, we explained in the hagaha test, that the ayin is mahav the yesh, but the his havas a yesh is from the ayin. It's not like direct from atmos ein seif. Atmos ein seif al yidei ha'oir is mahav a yesh. The oir is a vehicle for being megala the inyan mitziyusim yatzmos say, and he's able to be mahav the yesh. Shalachin also that because the oir is a suitable vehicle for the inyan amoir, that means all inyan amoir, including and because otherwise it wouldn't be able to create yesh ma'ayin. You have to have a koyach hisavus. You have to have a koyach of this musig of mitziyusim yatzmusay, the musig of kiyam atzmi. Otherwise you won't be able to create. So because the Eibishter, you're right, oir mitzad atzmi shouldn't have a kiyam atzmi, because it's dependent on the moy. But afal pikein, since the rotzen abeira is that there should be zavos yishmaim, the oin also has this quality. It's also able to be meir and be a me'ain of this inyan of the moy. Ulazais kiyumei calls man shunim so v'chinas kiyam atzmi uv'keichel yehit v'chelte lahavis ma'ain yesh. Yeah. I'm going to skip that bracket, but it's actually an interesting bracket. Inyan neshamas. It brings a few. It's worth looking up the midrashim. Of course, a few midrashim. The neshamas are also called chaim, and neshama also has a kiyam atzmi, and that's why you have these references in the medrash about poshet neshamas being able to create things. So it's pretty out there that. Because atem hadveikim b'avay l'keichem chayim kulchem hayom, meaning the neshama is me'ein amoy. But it's a whole interesting association. But I don't we'll sidetrack us at the moment. I don't want to get off track. But definitely kedai to have a look at that in the midrashim that quotes there. Okay. That's why it's interesting.
And you have Kerchailada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says the famous Mami Tofishayachas, Kulmar. Shona said that Shutlim, the mother father comes back Shutlim in Yaldus, the Yalad.
Yeah. I'm saying it's an interesting sugya, but I don't want to get sidetracked. V'hinei Yudua the bechinas atmos amoir kol by bechinas ha'oir gamkin. Okay, so 1 second. So why is that negaya? This is the Eidei Shlema. The Eidei Shlema is saying that the oir has the qualities of moy. So the first two Yesh Leimas were just emphasizing the inyan of hispashtus ha'oir, two madrigs in hispashtus ha'oir, also inyan etzem ha'oir. But when we talk about Atzilus, what is Atzilus? Atzilus is the Yerida Vashpala of that oir, either the oir, either the etzem oir, the hispashtus ha'oir, as we year to become Tachtinish B'matz or Kesed Atzilus. But now we're going further and we're saying nish nor inyan ha'oid, but also inyan ha'moed is nimshach. It's nimshach al yidei, because the oid itself has a kiyam atzmi, has the quality is me'ein ha'moed, and has the qualities of moed in your kiyam atzmi. Yeah. Then you do the bechinas atmas ha'moed. Kol bay bechinas ha'oid gam kein. Zo ma she'amar azal atshon yiver ha'elam ha'yuhu shmei bilvad. The shmei hu bechinas ha'oid shletzerech ha'elames. Kameshu kol b'ha'moed chuli kameshu kos makim acher. Okay, I'm not going to be medayik in those lashonos because I think it will also get us off track. But the moed has within it the oid. As we say, yeah. Just I'm not going to explain that. Take it just as atheist for the moment. Im kein yishleima. So if that's the case, if the oid, which is ultimately going to become the oid shala olamis kesed atzilus tachtein shebamatzil, if it was originally, it's not an oid shel tulda, it's the oid itself that was originally kolul in the ma'od. The bechinas malchus the ein seif shu bechinas ha'ara me'ed ein seif shlifnei atzimtzum shenimshach la'achar atzimtzum niyes bechinas kesed la'atzilus. In ken yishleima, this madrega, the madrega malchus of ein seif shlifnei atzimtzum, which is yerid of nimshach to become kesed atzilus, yesh by koyach bechinas atmas ha'moed bechinas ha'oid. Because this oid, which was ultimately going to come the age, was ultimately kol in the moed. Those are beginners etzema oid, etzema ekameshu kol ba'moed. Ultimately, as it's nimshach, also ali in yoni moed is also nimshach. That's the suggestion. The zel base madrega shebekesa, and these are the two madregas in kesa. Beginners atik. Shu bechinas tachtein shebamatzil, which we've been talking about. Ein blosh neger sakida shanal. U bechinas reishu mokin et salim. Shu bechinas ha'oid shel seirich hanet salim. Doesn't call it arich. He just calls it the madrega, which isn't atik, which is the seirich hanet salim, which we ordinarily call arich. Yeah. Pnimis hakes and chitzenis hakes. V'zo in beis habechinas sheba atzilus ha'oid, and this is these two dargas, these two concepts in the Atzilus Ha'oid that we learnt from the story of Moshe. Harishain, the first inyan, the first bechina of Atzilus Ha'oid is Mashakos of Atzalta min Aruach HaShalacha, Shezol bechinas Tachteina Shebamatzil, Shelamayla Adayin me bechinas Gilu B'Netzalim. Va'abeis Mashakos of Asamti Alehem, Hainu bechinas Reishu Mokon Netzalim Shenishklam B'zeh bechinas Ha'oid, Va'agilu Shemislabish Ba'akelim De'es Spheres Atzilus. So, first you have Pnimius HaKeser, which is the inyan about Tzaltim min Aruach, stage 1. And then you have what I'm calling Arich, Chitzenis HaKeser, Mokeh HaNet Tzolim, the Mokeh HaOy, which is going to be Yod of a Nimshach into the Kelim of Atzilus. That's the Samti Aliyah. Yishleimer Dezel Mashakos B'Pardash Abiyah Perik Beis Sheyesh Ba'etzem Atzilus Gimel B'Chinis. What does it say in the Pardas? In Atzilus you have three bechinas. Bechinas Ein Seif, u bechinas ha'atzmas, Heina Eiris Chuli, u bechinas Atzma. What does it mean? The bechinas ha'Ein Seif, bechinas Tachtein Shebamatzil. When it says Ein Seif, it means Pnimis HaKeser, Tachtein Shebamatzil. Bechinas Atzmos, Heina Eiris, Mispashtim Me'irim, Mislapshim Bakelim. Atzmas is ha'ara, which becomes the Eiris, which are Mislabish and Kelim. In base Bechinas Ba'atzilus Eiris, these are the two Madregas in Atzilus Eiris, or Bechinas Atzmon Hina Kelim. And Atzilus itself is the Kelim. So it's better. The reason he doesn't say Arich, because I think he doesn't want to say Arich, because he wants to say this is the whole Eiris of Atzilus. But you have the Eiris of Atzilus, and you have the Kelim of Atzilus. Ein Seif, Atzmus and Atzmon. So it says in the Pardas. So he plots it onto what it says in the Pardas there. Verstehst? And now he's going to plot it onto a few other things. A few technical things here. I'm going to go through this quickly, okay? In the in the Eir of Chachma, not the Kliya Chachma, Eir of Chachma, you also have these two musagim, these two stages, what we call the V'atzalti min haruach and the V'samti aleihem. Yeah, the Yerida Bashbolas ha'Eir atzmei to Magdede Bechusa, and then the Ha'arim imenu. Ukiyadosh ish Chachma beis Madrege is beginas Kayach Chachma, beginas Mada Chachma. Shezel Chachma Kayachma. There's two Madreges in Chachma which we call Kayach of Chachma and what we call Ma of Chachma. In the beginas Kayach the Chachma, beginas Chachma to say this. We call the Kayach of Chachma referring to the Chachma the way it is integrated as part of Seidish Tashus. And it has a relationship with Bina, and it becomes it's Nishtalshul from Chachma, it's Nishtalshul to Bina. Ayin Beyesh. Just like in a person, then they have the lightning flash of inspiration of an idea, but it's not yet comprehensible. But then, through a process of tzimtzum, you're able to bring it down into a state of bina, of understanding and comprehension. So that shows that the chachma has a shaykhs to bina, and that's all in the madrega which we call koyach chachma. When we talk about koyach chachma, we're talking about the eir which is integrated into the miskeres of seder shtalshlus of the seder aspiris of atzilus. But when we refer to the ma of chachma, that is beyond comprehension. It's not even a gather of seichel of asaga. It's the way this ayin of keser, the tachtein shebematzel, can be found in chachma. Bechinas zu leinitin lehonis liyeshu bechinas ayin the keser mamish. This is a dagger which is a pnimis chachma, which is not beget asaga. And really, this is the whole shaykhus of pnimis. As he says, "Vayni machakos beis chaim the pnimis abu pnimis atik." And we discussed a lot in that. This relationship, how chachma is, we say tam miloshen reason and tam miloshen tainug. Remember from the Lechot Ichla? To push him in tam. Yeah, chachma stima v'chuli. So behind much goes based kind of is abu is atig so much making the abu the mine mistalshul so fische beim so mine beginnt atzilus wo beginnt eine at mit der kesse and this target the primus making the primus chachma is not stated is not part of the stalshus and is more as more bescheichtes to the primus kesse she nimmt zu beina net zahlen just happens to be primus kesse which is nimmt zu beina net zahlen sort of out of place. Doesn't belong there. Bad. It's
in the Kesa.
What?
It's in the Kesa.
No, it's in Chachma. Pnimis HaKesim, Pnimis HaChachma. It's just, there's no shaykhs. It's not really, it has no erech, there's no shaykhs to bin. It's not relational. It's the whole thing we learned from Isis. The Isis is able to be machriach. Agilui.
So it moved?
What do you mean it moved?
It wasn't. It's the Keach of Atik in Chachma.
There is a kesha pnimi between chachma and that kesha, but not alter inyan from seichel. It's a separate kesha. It's outside of the miskeres of the think the inyan nishtalshim. So about that, about salty min haruach hashalecho b'chinis yiriza era asmi the kesha b'chinis tachtenish b'matzu liyimotzi b'mokim hanetzalin. This is how he explains it. Just like we say about Saltum in Aruach, his Madrigas Meisha Mamish, his Yir of an Imshach, should be Shaykh, or should be Madrigas as a Canaan. But it's not Shaykh to them. From there, you have to then have a Ha'arim Imenu, which can be Nimshach to this Canaan. So similarly over here, you have the Eir Atzmi of Kesa, what we call Tachtena Shua Maitzel, that it should be Yir of an Imshach to a Makim Nesarim. So you have, again, this union of Atzilus. Atzilus Miloshin Yir of Ashpalas Ha'eir. The Samti Aleim looking as a Oidris Hane at Salim Hamislapshin became the essence for his Tatsilus. So the same thing that we described, the way it is in the way from Ein Sof to Kesed Atzilus, you also see Shpikul Tzichat in the Inyan of Chachma Era Chachma Atzilus. It has these two madrigas, these two aspects. We talk about Lamed Beis and Sivas Chachma in Kabbalah, yeah. So then the Siv Lamed Beis, the 32nd pathway of Chachma, is described as Pnimius HaChachma, Vubichinas Ha'ayin Dekeseh Shnimsa B'Chachma. So this, what we described, is also parallels the concept of the Nesiv Lamed Beis. The Nesiv Lamed Beis is similarly the Ayin Dekeseh, which is found in Chachma. Nesiv Lo Yadai. This Nesiv is referred to as Lo Yadai, Shu Be'etzim L'mayim B'Chinas Yidiyah. Chachma, the B'shashu b'chinas pnimis hakesed b'chinas reisha d'lo yoda v'lo yisyada el shnimsa bein hanesalim b'chinas chachma. Okay. By Mashkoz v'pardas and Nesivus per Gimel the Maskal Nesiva Aleph v'zel l'shenis. So now it's going to quote from the Pardas about this Nesiv. Ve'ein sofik shenesiv hazehu etzem hachachma ba'atzma. It's in Yelema atzmusa shel hachachma. Yishlema da'inu b'chinas. This is another B'sham. B'chinas ha'ayin the kesed b'chachma b'chinas atzma z'chachma k'shakos mokum acher hefesh ben chitzenis hachachma pnimis hachachma. It's not the same for the Aleph and Sivos. They are like the Shtalshus HaChachma. That's like the Koyach HaChachma, not the Ma of Chachma. But the Ramaskar and the Siva Gimel, Kososh and the Siva Aleph Nidme La Matzu, and the Siva Beis, Doime La Kesa, and the Siva Gimel, Doime La Chachma. Oy Kososh on Ramaskar and the Siva Aleph, and the Siva Rishon, Hu Bechinas Hadas. So this throws a span in the works. So first of all, he quotes from there where it suggests that the Nesiv Aleph will be Doimil and Matzil, then it's Keser, and then it's the Chachma, and then it fits in what we're saying. Right? There's the Pnimius of Chachma, which is not Shaykh Bichlal to the Inyan Ayishtalshmus. But then it says that another place it quotes from there again. It says that this Nesiv, which we were saying before, is like Kesser, is like Atzmus, whatever. The Matzil is now B'chinas Hadas. What's Das got to do with the whole thing? So he's now going to give a whole explanation of the Inyan Hadas and what Das has to do with the whole story. And with that, he's going to end the hagaha. I think we should just do it because it's a little bit of a side point. The main point he wants to make in this hagaha is already made in the three yesh leimas, and the suggestion being that he'll conclude. Get to the end. We'll get to the end of the hagaha and he'll explain it. Can we go through this quickly? It's mamish not the. It's in a way it's a particular side point to the point we're trying to make here. It's an interesting thing. It's interesting, but it's not. It's a little bit of a sidetrack. So how do we explain the singing of Das? What's Das got to do with it? We've just tried to explain that the Pnimius of Chachma is shaykh to the Tachtein Shabbat Matzil, and it's mamash in a man, it's got no shaykhs to Seichel. Now Mitamol, you're saying it's all to do with Das. What's Das? Where does Das fit in? Yishloimad, you do the Das, or Bechinas is Kashrus. What is Das? Das is the Inyan of being niskasher to something, attached to something. For there to be any form of giluyim at all, there has to be das. Even for a person to be for the person's rotzen to be niskala, there has to be inyan of das. You have to have some type of, as we said, what is inyan agilu? Inyan agilu is a shaykh azulas. You're being niskala to something. So if you have no shaykhs to anything, you can't be niskala to anything. Das is a prerequisite, is a condition for there to be giluim. Without das, there aren't any giluim. Even the gilu harotzin. To want something else means you have to have a certain shaykhus, an attachment to the thing that you want. Otherwise, why would you want it? Why would there be a gilu harotzin if you didn't have any shaykhus to it? So das is, in a sense, the conditions by which there can be all forms of giluim. Now, don't we say that everything? We usually say that everything is toli b'rotzin. If you want to have a gilu hakoyach, you have to have rotzin for that thing. You have to want that thing. If you want that thing, then you can have a gilui keach. We say that if a person is in order to have a good understanding of something, they have to want to understand it. A person should always learn in an area of Torah which he wants to, which he has a rotzen for, he has a chayfetz for. The kasha yesh chayfetz rotzen bezeh. Also, Yom Yaskel, because that will enable him to be able to understand it. And it's not just seichel, all keiches. There's no rotzen there, then there won't be a gil of the keich. However, so that's what we usually say. So how can we now say that even rotzen is dependent on das? Usually we say everything's dependent on rotzen. But how do you have the rotzen? Okay, everything depends on rotzen. But then how do you have a rotzen? You don't always want everything or anything. How do you cause that you should have a gila rotzen? So shegeirim bechinas das, shehu is kashrus. Das is what causes you to have a rotzen to something. That by engaging in something and having a Zugetrogenkeit, an attachment to something, it develops a rotzen for that thing. Usually say, so pick the thing you enjoy, do. No. Nehmt sich zu der Arbeit. Really delve deeply into something. You kasha yourself to a thing, and then mainly you have a rotzen for it. Because das itself is not a gilui. Because you could say, okay, all giluyim has to be das. So how do you get das? So das itself is not a gilui. Das is not the pshat gilui. Das is more is the hamshachas hanefesh slash kushalin. That's how he describes it. It's a way of engaging and attaching oneself and connecting oneself to something. You know, there's no it's an orientation rather than a gilui. But you can force yourself to have das. Meaning you can force yourself, because it's not a gilui. Cool. When it comes to gilui, you always have to go back to the first thing. What's going to be the prime mover? What's going to cause the thing to happen? When it comes to das, doesn't have to be. You can force yourself to want to engage with something, to affect yourself with something. Can't force yourself to want something. When you don't want something, you can't force yourself to want it. But if you have no connection to something, you can force yourself to have a connection to something. Okay, that's good durchtrachten what it's saying over here in Nefesh. Let's just go through the Isis, and then you can be explaining about it yourself afterwards. But I think if you think properly about this, it's worth being thinking about this, processing what it's trying to say over here, because it's actually very, very important in Yonim Nafshim about how to behave, how to Now it's saying here that you can't be machriach yaratzin. The famous example is you can force someone to say that they want to give a get even if they don't want to. Alpidin. Inyan avois korban chuli. We don't need to call echo be'echim yisrael. Reitz b'pnimis lekaimis mitzvahs as a mitzvahs. It's rachmin averis rakshi yitzri takfei. V'ali da'ko ekfiyah. Hotish tukach take of yitzrei. Uksheim reitze harizem masim la mitzvahs reitzein apnimi. Lechin harizem moil. K'mishkas haramim hilchas keishim perik beis halacha chaf. So the famous example, which the Rebbe quotes many times, that this is the rotten amity of the person. Therefore, when he gets beaten up and is told you have to agree to give the get, when he says he wants to, it's because he's getting beaten up. But it's not bestira to his rotten amity, because everyone wants to do the rotten the Eibishter. But even in that instance, it's not all of a sudden that he sees the ill of his ways. And now you've hit me so many times, I understand why I really, really did want to give the get. No, why is he saying I want to give a get? He's saying Begilui he wants to give the get. But Begilui, what is his ratzin? His ratzin is not to give the get. For whatever reason. He's a Rosh, he's a Marusha. No. Not a nice person. Doesn't want to give a get. But he's going to say, Reitza Ani, I do want to give the get. He's saying it because he's getting beaten up. Even in that instance, when he says it, it's just Nasafi V'lachutz. Begilui. You have to rely on the fact that Behelim, he wants to be Mekayim, the Ratzon of Hashem. So therefore, there isn't Be'etzim a stira between his Dibur, which is forced, and his Ratzon Amiti, Ratzon Pnimi. But he's not aware of it. We know that this person, Mitzad Nishmosei, wants to give a get. But this person himself doesn't realize he wants to give a get. He's doing it because he's getting beaten up. So it works up halacha, but don't think all of a sudden this person becomes about tshuva because you're beating him up. That's not the case. The rotzin is behelim. The real rotzin to be mekayim, the rotzin of Hashem, it remains behelim. V'haraya shekol advarim sha'rotzin geirim b'shari keiches v'gilu keichas seichel g'deima lo yigrim ha'rotzin haba b'kfiyah v'hechrik ne'she'ena rotzin goli. So in any other situation, we usually say the rotzin is able to be machriach all the other keiches. Yeah, it has a keich elyon, it's a keich makifi. It's able to be machriach the other keiches pnimim. So when we say la'ilam yom l'makom shlebi chafetz, so why don't I say to you, you know what? You don't want to learn Gemara today. If I beat you up, you're going to sit and learn Gemara? Yeah, so I beat you up, and eventually you agree to learn Gemara, halacha, whatever it is, and you think you're going to understand it. Think that rotzin which you said, okay, I want to learn Gemara, that rotzin is going to be able to machriach es keich haseichel? No, because it's not a rotzin begoli. Doesn't work that way. Rotzin goli ein shaykh be'echrich. You can't force someone to really want something. Kimal yedei dove hageinim davka ad sheyitze. Mashe enkin ad das veis kashrus yokli is behechrich gamkin. But das is different. Das in his kashrus can be echera behechrich. Gamkin shemachrich es atzmi is kashel in you to trogen sich. By diesem is rotzin. You can through consistent shkida basmodin and attachment to a thing, you can develop a rotzin for that thing. So das is able to be ma'ir the rotzin. Okay? Finally, if you rotzin rak gilui nefesh, ukshlo yesh agilui memela in a shaykh echrich. Kim tzrichim tov hageidim is agilui. What is rotzin? Rotzin is a gilui the nefesh. So if the gilui isn't there, there has to be something that's going to cause the gilui. Aval adas ain't rak gilui nefesh. Ki im hamshachas ha'atzmus lekashis atzmi be'eze inyan chuli. Okay, we can sit for ages on this, but let's move on. Benimsa, the adas u'bechinas is kashrus ha'atzmus. U'k'moiken yishleim l'mayla masha nesiv alamed beis u'bechinas hadas. Hainu bechinas hamshachas v'yirid is ha'atzmus lekashis atzmi kivyochel b'inyan netzalim v'do bechinas v'atzalti chuli v'lechin nimshach misham kol gili ya'eris netzalim shezo inyan v'samti aleim chuli. Okay, so now we understand why in the Pardes it refers to Pnimius HaChochma as das. Because das is the inyan of Amshachas HaAtzmas. It's the way the etzim is nimshach to an inyan. And he's going on all other giluyim. So das is doch the pshat v'atzalti min haruach. Amshachas v'yidas ha'eid l'madrega b'chusim imenu. And then you have the samti aleim, the gilu ha'eiris that come afterwards. Verstehst? Klal beginners madrigas anal beginners ar levad beginners atmas amoy u kanal be inyan beginners tachninische be matzos beginners ar levad el jo beginners atsam eir khuli kanal u ma shenim shok mislavish ba kelim u beginners dis pasha say. So let's get clear. Atzilus ha'eir is taka eir. It's taka not just is pasha say, not just is pasha say k'meshula atzmi, not just atsam eir, but atsam eir k'meshula kol ba moy. And in Yonei HaMoed is Meir Al Yodov. Yeah? Aber von deswegen ist only ha'ara bilvad. Still only ha'ara bilvad. It's only oir. It's the oir with all of these keiches. And that is what is Yerid and Nimshach. And then from that oir, which is Yerid and Nimshach, to become Kesed Atzilus, and we see also Shpigel Zechab and Pnimis HaChachma, from there, it comes a ha'ara, noch a ha'ara, a hispashtus from that way, which is the Eiris of Atzilus. Kol ze bedugmas Atzilus ruchi shel Meisha, the bichlolus hu bechinas hafrashas ha'ara levad mi ruchi shel Meisha, sheyarde lamat mi madrigase. V'yesh b'zeh beis madrigas, v'atzalti chuli, v'samti chuli. Okay, we're gonna what time is it? Let's see the time. Let's do this. We might as well just get to the end of the paragraph. Just to have an Inyan Shani. Avaloisha yu oilam ma'ilus madrigas meisha atzmei. So this is the lashon of the Alter Rebbe, that because they get a yinika from the Eir, which is the Madrega, which we've now been mavchin in the hagaha v'samti, which is only ha'ara bilvad. It's not the pshat that the Zakanim now become Madrega's Meisha. Nay, this is now hagaha Yud Gimel. Nay she'eina marich klal. They have ein arich legabi Meisha. Lachem mekabdim miruche shel Meisha k'meishu b'chinas yirida davka v'hainu shel b'chinas ha'ara levad. V'gam zois loy b'chinas ha'ara k'meishu klula ba'etzim liyesu madrega al yena harbi yesa. But not even from the Madrega Batzilus Ruchi Shel Meisha, only from the Madrega V'samti, which is a ha'ara from the Madrega, which is itself a ha'ara, which is Yerid V'nimshach the Madrega B'chus Mimenu. K'mishkosu b'seif Shel Beinim, b'inyan ziv ha'shemesh b'shemesh, shusham b'teik v'godol yesa harbe. So if the very ha'ara, Eir ha'shemesh, which was kolu b'seif guf kader ha'shemesh, is Yerid V'nimshach, whilst it was in guf kader ha'shemesh, it was Maila Yena Harbi Yesa. Madrigas Abitul V'chuli. So, if we, the Yachas of, and here, who are the Zakanim over here is like Alderech, it's the Indian of the Kalim of Atzilus. The Kalim of Atzilus, their Shaykhas, or their Yachas to the Oir, is Ashton's Taka and Oir, which was originally Kolomomoy, but it's still a Oir, is a horrible Vad. And a horrible Vad, the way it's Yerid of a Nimshach. V'nishtalshel. Become Tachtenish of a Maitzum. And from their Gufa, Indian of Hispashtus and Ha'ara from that way. So, Kamekin, Hu Benimshel, Lamaila, the Ha'ir, Kamesha, Hu Bahama'ir, Hu Bamadrigal, Yena Harbi Yes, Mekwesha, Me Benimshel, Mechutz La'amai. Iva Emes, Ein Lachadov, Shechutz Vimenu, V'chamakim, Sha'in, V'chamakim, Sha'in, Nimsa, Hamai, Nimsa, Sham, Kamish, Gosamakim, Ache, Vai, Mashkos, Shisha, Chelik, Beisper, Gimel, Mekwamakim, Hu Behelim. Alright. Relax. We're not saying Chas V'Shalom that there's anywhere that's Emes, Chutz La'amai, but Lagabi, the Ein, it's the Mois Behelim. The Chol HaKolu B'Ha'etzem, Hu Kamei Ha'etzem Mamish. Whilst the Ein, which was Kolu B'Ha'etzem, there was mamish kamei atzem mamish. Lezeis bechinas hakelim da atzilus liyoisam bechinas ein arich klal legabi atmos chulik kanal. Lezeis yefshek gam ken sheyikablu gam bechinas ha'oy kamei shekol ba'etzem. Ki im bechinas ha'oy sheba begilu min ha'etzem. In ha'arim imenu mislabeshes ba'kelim da eses firis da atzilus chulik kanal be'inim v'atzalti v'samti chuli. So it's not shaykh that the kelim of atzilus should be able to have a shaykhis to this oy. The oy which was kolul in the atmos. Even the oy which was yerid of a nimshach, to become Kesed Atzilus, the dagger of Atzaltim in Aruach, the first Madriga, even that no shaykh to get from. But only Ha'ara Mimenu Mislabeshes became him Desert Atzilus. Okay, we can stop there. Next, and you will start later. Okay, is that okay?